These are the questions you forgot to ask before moving to Michigan. So you're thinking about moving to Michigan, the great state of Michigan, the Great Lakes state, such a beautiful place here, and you've tried to answer all the questions or ask all the right questions. Well, in this video, we want to review some of those questions you probably did ask, but also some of the questions that you might have forgot. So stay tuned through all of our questions and all of our answers if you're thinking about moving to Michigan, because I think there's some really good nuggets throughout this video. My name is Matt Talbot. I am the host of the Living in Detroit channel. We're going to dive right into what Michigan is really like and start answering some of those questions for you so you can have an understanding if this is the state for you. First and foremost, it goes without saying, but it's probably one of our most common questions from people out of state, especially people that don't live in a northern state, and that is, what is the weather like? So on this channel, we try to give you a little bit of my take as a local person from Michigan, born and raised, and also a local real estate agent that really knows the state well, and definitely Southeast Michigan very, very well. So we try to give you that take, but also a good amount of statistics as well and data points on that. So diving right into it, the weather, average highs and lows in the winter: January high 31, low 19, February high 34, low of 20, March high of 46, low of 26, and average snowfall: January 17 inches, February is 21, and March is 6.4. So those are going to be the averages of highs and lows throughout, a extended period of time. However, during any given winter, we can have these kind of extremes. Like, we're actually really, really early in 2024, and a few weeks ago actually in February, we reached temperatures of 60 degrees, which is kind of rare, but does happen from time to time, kind of midwinter. And then also a few weeks before that, we dropped all the way down into like the 1s and 0, and with the wind chill was in like the negatives, right? So you have this kind of extreme different changes, but from the most part, it starts to get cold really November, December, and for the most part stays pretty cold through March, April, minus some of those offset days, with some spikes throughout. I think this year's El Nino, I don't really know the specifics of that, but I think it makes it a little bit warmer this time of year in this part of the country, as well as a little bit less snowfall and rainfall than you do in the southern western side of the country. If I'm wrong and you know that, and you can kind of dive into the comments and let me know if I'm correct or not in that statement, but I'm pretty sure that to be true. Up next on what Michigan is really like, that will be the Great Lakes. So we're known as the Great Lakes Stakes as the Great Lake State. As you might know or may not know, we're surrounded by the world's largest amount of fresh water, right? We have the Great Lakes here. We touch 4 of the 5 Great Lakes, and the coastline is over 3,000 miles long. The Great Lakes also cause lake effect snow, which can cross across the state, specifically on the west side of the state. So if you're thinking about moving to Grand Rapids or Kalamazoo or, Traverse City, that side of the state is going to get a lot more snowfall than the eastern side of the state where we sit today. So the reason being is across Lake Michigan, there's a good amount of weather that comes across that way, and it accumulates a lot of clouds, which then dumps a ton of snow on the west side of the state. So as an example, I went to Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, which is not really even right on the coast. It's about an hour in. We got a ton of snow there. Grand Valley State is going to be similar on that side of the state, Grand Rapids, but all the coastal cities all the way up and down definitely get a lot of snow as well too. So Great Lakes, there's Lake Michigan, you have Lake Huron, Lake Superior, all the Great Lakes. And if you go into the UP, Lake Superior is the largest freshwater lake in the world. So the Great Lakes themselves are pretty astonishing. Lake Michigan is probably, I don't know if my favorite, Lake Michigan or Lake Superior are my 2 favorite from my visits, but there's beautiful coastline everywhere, which is a huge benefit in the state of Michigan, okay? We talk about this in a lot of our videos, whether you live in Southeast Michigan, the west side, the middle of the state, UP, no matter what, your driving distance to a Great Lake, or B, just a nice inland lake as well too. So that's a big part of our culture here in Michigan across the board, the lake life, right? People want a lake house, a cottage, they can rent an Airbnb, they can go to one of the big lakes and jump into, the lake, or, one of our state parks or national parks, which I'll dive into in a minute in the statistics there. One of the craziest statistics, or I guess one of the craziest features of the Great Lakes to me is Lake Superior, which, is a little bit of a hike if you're in the lower peninsula and you got to drive up north, but Lake Superior is just massive. I love the UP. It's beautiful up there, but there's some pretty wild statistics I wanted to take you through. Lake Superior contains 10% of the planet's fresh surface water. 10% of the planet's fresh water is in Lake Superior. That's crazy to me. It covers 82,000 square kilometers or 31,000 miles with an average depth of 147 meters or 483 feet. So close to 500 feet at its average depth. The deepest point of the lake is 104 meters or 1,333 feet. There have been around 350 shipwrecks recorded on Lake Superior. Lake Superior by surface area is the largest lake in the world. So by surface area, largest lake in the world. It contains as much water as all the other Great Lakes combined. There's enough water in Lake Superior to cover all of North and South America with water 1 foot deep. Think about that. In one lake, there's enough water to cover all of North America and South America in 1 foot of water. That is just so mind-blowing to me. There's 78 different species of fish. I'm sure there's more than that if you were to deep dive and continue to look for them. The maximum wave ever recorded Lake Superior is 9.45 meters or 31 feet high. So people in Lake Superior and Lake Michigan, believe it or not, do surf from time to time. There's some pretty wild people out there that will actually go in winter and surf, full wetsuit. They're covered in icicles and stuff like that. But the Great Lakes are a big part of our culture. That's just some fun statistics on Lake Superior. However, like I said, driving distance, lake life, cottages, just being able to go and explore the state parks, national parks, all that great stuff is a huge part of our culture. So maybe you didn't ask yourself as far as what the benefits were of the Great Lakes, but if you're thinking about moving to the great state of Michigan, the Great Lake state of Michigan, then in that point, you definitely want to understand the Great Lakes, what that means to you and your family. Up next is the job market. What is the job market like here in Michigan? In a lot of our videos, we deep dive into specifics there to kind of talk about what the job market is here if you're thinking about looking for a job. But a couple things we wanted to discuss was manufacturing, healthcare, and automotive. First and foremost, manufacturing, for the most part, is going to be the biggest industry in the state of Michigan, specifically due to the auto industry. So the big three, of course, are here when it comes to manufacturing cars. A lot of those companies have hundreds of thousands of employees worldwide, and a lot of them sit in Detroit, Metro Detroit, and throughout Michigan itself. Up next is healthcare. The healthcare system is big in Southeast Michigan as well as across the state. There's very, very large healthcare systems in Lansing, Grand Rapids, and Michigan, throughout the entire state. So that's a huge reason why people move here. We work with a ton of docs, a ton of physicians. So we work very, very heavily with physician loans and residents and people moving here for healthcare. So that's another really big one. And then, of course, automotive. So I mentioned manufacturing and automotive, but again, automotive as a whole is one of the biggest industries here, without a doubt, on top of your manufacturing facilities, just the automotive companies themselves. And that's not all manufacturing. A lot of our clients are moving here because they're software engineers or mechanical engineers. They work at Ford Motor Company or GM or what have you, and they move here for that job. So I can't tell you how many calls we get a month of people moving to Southeast Michigan, and I say, where do you work? And they'll say Ford Motor Company, and I'll say, what do you do? And a lot of them are engineers of some sort. I mean, we've probably worked with hundreds of software engineers at Ford Motor Company alone because there's so many people moving here in droves, especially as electric cars kind of evolve, and especially as a lot of this technology kind of ties in with each other. There's a lot more software engineers. So you could almost say automotive, tech is a big piece when it comes to the big three here in Michigan. Up next on our list of questions you might have not asked before moving to Michigan, that's going to be our schools. We're going to talk a little bit about some of our examples of some of the colleges and universities here in Michigan. What are the schools like? So University of Michigan, in-state tuition, $15,000, out-of-state tuition, $52,000. Acceptance rate is only 20%. Student faculty ratio, 12-1. Graduation rate is 90%. So University of Michigan, most people have heard of that. It is one of the top tier schools in the state, without a doubt. Michigan State University is another top tier school and very large university as well too in Lansing. U of M is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So one's kind of the center of the Lower Peninsula, and one is in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit, in Metro Detroit here. Up next is Wayne State University, in-state tuition $12,300, out-of-state tuition $28,000, acceptance rate 63%, so literally 3 times the acceptance rate. Student to faculty ratio 14-1. Those are both pretty good numbers. I don't know a lot about universities, but they both seem good that you get, 14 students per one faculty seems like a good amount there. Graduation rate of Wayne State is 26%, so a little bit different from U of M. Easier to get into, lower graduation rate, I guess makes sense. And last but not least, this is just give you an example of, one of our smaller colleges here in Michigan, Central Michigan. There's also Western Michigan, a lot of other similar universities. Oakland University is another one as well too. In-state tuition, $12,700, so similar to Wayne State. Out-of-state tuition, $12,700, exactly the same. So they incentivize you to go to a school like that throughout Michigan. Acceptance rate all the way up at 77%, student to faculty ratio 17.1%, and graduation rate up to 54% of Central Michigan universities. So there's a variety, a plethora of different options when it comes to community colleges and different programs for post K-12 education. And those are some examples to kind of show you the cost of going to college here as well too. If you're looking for K through 12 and other schooling options, private school options in any specific areas, make sure you tap and hit subscribe for our videos here because we post a lot. Also, go ahead and dive into our other videos and we can talk more specifics there as well too. So again, a lot of our videos deep dive into a lot of these specifics. We want to give an overview for this type of video. And so we just want to name one statistic on the cost of living here in Michigan. So a lot of our videos, we talk about, gas prices and food prices and real estate, which we'll also talk about in a minute here. But the overall cost of living, the macro answer, the question you might not have asked yourself is, hey, is Michigan more expensive, less expensive than where I'm moving from, and all that stuff. So if you look at all the data and according to a lot of the articles and research that we did, if you dive into the data, the cost of living in Michigan is about 11% less than the national average, okay? That's the average, so 11% less than the average. So it's a good cost of living as far as affordability here in Michigan. Specifically, if you're moving from a city like Chicago, or if you're moving from Florida, or if you're moving from, California, a lot of these bigger cities and stuff like that, hustling and bustling, they're more expensive to live in than a city like Detroit or a state like Michigan as a whole. So on average, we're 11% less than the national average, and depending on where you're moving from, depending on where you're moving from, it might be significantly less for you as well. Last but not least of a question you might not have asked yourself before moving to Michigan is about real estate statistics. So I am a local real estate broker. My team and I help people move to Michigan every single day. It's a big reason why we do this channel. We want to coach and educate you on the process of moving here, work with hundreds of clients throughout the last couple of years. And so we definitely know real estate statistics. So I have some good statistics to take you through when it comes to the home types and housing statistics. So average house price in Michigan currently $297,000, so just under $300,000. And single family is a little bit higher, is just over $300,000. So when it comes to, taking out condos and stuff like that, single family only homes are about $300,000. So if you're moving from a Miami, a Chicago, a Las Vegas, right, the home prices here are significantly less. You get a lot more bang for your buck when you look at that average price. Median is a little bit lower, 250. Average days on market is 33 days currently. Like I said, we're really early 2024 here. So just to give you kind of a timestamp, this video will probably go out for the next couple of years, but days on market for the last couple of years have been very, very low. And when you're talking about an aggregate and average of the entire housing market at 33 days, that's a really, really low number based on statistics. So there's some homes that are overpriced. There's homes that, need a lot of work. And so when you average all those in 33 days, the homes are selling very, very fast. In real estate, we talk about price per square foot. This is always a good number to note, $183 per foot. If you compare that to like a Los Angeles, or if you compare that to a Chicago, or if you compare that to a Miami or New York, you'll see that those numbers are very, very aggressive when it comes to affordability of homes. A lot of our clients that actually move to Michigan, a lot of times have like friends or family here, or they get a job here. And one of the reasons why they take that job or they consider moving back home right now is because they can work from home and their home affordability is so much less. So instead of spending $1.5 million dollars in Washington, D.C., you can get a really nice home for maybe $500,000, $700,000 kind of equivalent, and you're closer to family and stuff like that. A lot of people, that's a big impact. When you take that as well as the cost of living, you start to run numbers. There's a lot of reasons why people are moving back here to Michigan. A lot of people leaving Michigan as well too, obviously with weather and cold weather and all that type of stuff, but there's a lot of people we work with that are moving back here, and a big portion of that is the financial incentive to do so, and that ties directly in with the real estate market. Average square footage is an interesting one. I haven't looked at this statistic maybe as a state ever, is 1,726 square feet. So that's an interesting stat, 1,800 square feet or 1,700 square feet for the average home size. Inventory is down 13.2%, lowest in 10 years. Month of supply is 1.9 across the state. That is crazy low, guys. That is a very much as we refer to as a seller's market. So if you have a good amount of inventory, it's going to be a buyer's market. If you have a low amount of inventory, it's a seller's market. And if you have the right amount of inventory, it is a balanced market. So at 1.9 months, we're on the low side across the state. So really across the state, there's very, very low inventory. It's an aggressive market. What does that mean? It means that you need a good real estate agent that can help you navigate through that to get you the home that you want. It also means, according to our statistics, that for the foreseeable future, homes should continue to appreciate. People have been telling me for years, there's this real estate bubble and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. They read these headlines in different articles, and a lot of times the headlines are just that. They're headlines to get you to click. But if you look at the actual statistics, days on market, you look at the amount of inventory, you look at where the appreciation is coming from, as you continue to look forward, there's a very good chance homes are going to continue to appreciate. So if you buy a house today, 2024, you're going to fast forward 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to be really happy you did so. And on a 10, 15-year horizon, I mean, it's almost impossible to lose in Michigan, let alone across the country when it comes to that principal residence, purchase. Do me one favor before you jump out of this video. If there's other questions or other answers that you're looking for, please hit the comments below. Let us know what other questions, specifically if you are moving to the state of Michigan. If you've moved to the state of Michigan, one of the reasons why you did so is another great comment for us as well too. It helps us coach and educate the clients moving here to Michigan and throughout the state of Michigan. My name is Matt Talbot. My team is the Talbot team. I am a local real estate broker here in Michigan. Thank you so much for checking out our video. Hopefully you learned a thing or two.